I've not filmed for so long that there is a literal cobweb on my camera. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but I'm back. Okay, so I believe that I have grown the perfect philodendron Florida Ghost, and it's quite an accomplishment because I have had a couple fails with this plant in the past. I have had a philodendron Florida Ghost that just stayed very green. It was not ghosting for me. And I've also had the opposite problem where I was getting just stark white leaves that weren't turning green and they were just eventually browning off. But this one, she is absolute perfection. Do you see that gradient of minty to creamy leaves? Stunning. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you everything that I do to care for and maintain this plant. As usual, your mileage may vary. I still think it's fun to do these plant feature videos where I just give a little bit of the background and talk about my growing conditions and everything that I do to get it looking like this. Even though we all have so many variables, I still think it's just fun to sit down and chat about a plant. I'm gonna try to do some digging to see if I can find any video clips or photos from when I first got this plant, but I remember very clearly getting it because I drove an hour and a half to go pick it up from a Facebook Marketplace seller in, I believe at the end of 2020 is when I got this one. Now I had a Florida Ghost, the one that just went very green for me, about a year and a half prior to that. I ended up getting rid of that one because I just wasn't happy with how it was growing, but then I deeply regretted it. I wanted to try with this plant again because it's just so incredibly unique. I mean, look at her. It is just such a cool plant. So I decided to search for one that was local to me, and I found one like somewhat local. I remember so vividly like the night that I was driving to pick up this plant, which is so unhinged. Like I don't normally do stuff like that, but I guess I really wanted it. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I did because I really love this particular ghost. So I grew this out for a while, and there was a span of time where it just wasn't really standing out to me. Like I don't have a lot of memories of this plant in my collection from like 2021 to 2022, even though I know I had it and it was just like steadily growing out for me. I actually was just letting this plant kind of grow wild, so it ended up trailing. And we moved into this house in 2023. I stuck it on top of the kitchen cabinet, which I still have the mother plant up there today. It's grown out a lot. It is now crawling along my living room wall. Absolutely stunning. That one is a lot more green. We'll get to that. But I was doing maintenance on that main mother plant, which I have a whole video of repotting when I took that off the wall and everything. And I broke off a piece and decided to propagate it because I was like, you know what? I love this plant so much. I would love to try growing it climbing again. So this is only just over a year ago, I think, that I did that. And I potted it up, and that is this plant now. So very glad that I happened to break that piece off so that I could start this second plant, because this is just one of my favorite plants now and such a statement in my living room. So I've had the Florida Ghost for a long time. I've grown it in different ways. I've grown it in different lighting conditions. And it's just a plant that I have really grown to love, that I think I will always have in my collection in some capacity. I think it's very versatile, very easy care when you have the conditions dialed in. And that's the thing about this plant, is the conditions are gonna dictate what yours is looking like, specifically the light. So it really comes down to trial and error when you're figuring out what is kind of the happy medium for your plant. What is enough light that you're getting the nice ghosty leaves that we all want, but not too much light that it's not turning green. So you kind of have to play around a little bit, and I got pretty lucky with putting this. It's a few feet away from my south window, but it doesn't get a ton of direct light because that south window is kind of has like the roof coming out, so it's slightly covered. It's like bright indirect light, which I know is like the most annoying phrase ever, but it is. And this plant does really, really well with that. I think that this one is actually getting just slightly too much light. Like if I really wanted to dial it in, I would move it maybe another foot or two back, because It just takes a long time to turn minty. And when they take too long to turn minty, what can happen is, I have an example of it here. The leaves can start to brown. So you can see I have a little brown spot that's happening on this one. Now, if this would have turned green faster, then that probably wouldn't have happened, but the white leaves are very delicate. I do try to not handle mine a lot. In fact, that brown spot may have been just from me touching the leaf when I was talking about this plant, you know, within the past like month or so, because I have been talking about this plant a lot because I'm obsessed with it. So that is something kind of random, but I would be cautious when handling these leaves, and I would be cautious when spraying these leaves with anything. I wouldn't want to be using any type of pest treatment directly on the ghost leaves. Luckily, I don't have a lot of pest problems with this plant. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a pest on Philodendron Florida Ghost. Now, there's a lot of pests that will go for philodendron. I think I've just been lucky in that I haven't really had an issue. Anyways, back to light. You want to just experiment, try to dial in what conditions your plant is doing well under. You want some green on the plant, right? And it varies. Like this leaf is almost solid green. This one is kind of at the back of the plant, as you can see. But a lot of the green leaves are just kind of minty. They're at like an in-between kind of stage. I do have 2 vines growing in here as well, which is why it looks so full. Like there's so many leaves on this plant at all times, and it is always putting out a new one. Very, very fast growing in my experience. You can see there's a new one coming in up here, and then the second plant is here, and it just put out this stunning, gorgeous leaf. When your plant is younger, it won't have this leaf shape. It'll be just like a regular straight leaf, but then as they mature, they get these lobes and this stunning shape, and the shape will continue to change as they get more and more mature. Now, my particular setup that has been working so well for this plant is a self-watering pot. And this is something that I wanted to prioritize for this plant. My other one is also in self-watering, because especially when you have a plant that has leaves lacking chlorophyll, you don't want that plant to be getting thirsty, because those leaves are more vulnerable, right? So semi-hydro works really well for me. I will say this plant is pretty resilient when it comes to drying out, but I would try to either, you know, stay on top of watering if you're going to grow this in soil. Don't forget about it and let it be bone dry for days on end, or just do semi-hydro like this. This is a very, very easy way to grow this plant. Also, look at this. There's a leaf that came out and is trapped in the pole, which is so crazy. Like, what the heck? Anywho, this is just an Amazon self-watering pot, very cheap. Not my favorite self-watering pot, because these, you can't, there's no like insert, so you can't take the plant, you can't take it out and rinse it through or anything. Like once it's in there, it's just in there. So I have never flushed this leca. You know, it's been over a year that it's been in here, so it doesn't seem to mind. Never flushed the leca, and I try to keep this topped up, but it does dry out sometimes on me. So it's just in regular old leca. Now, I think really any fertilizer that you use for your plants is going to be fine for this. I don't do anything special. But what I've used, since this is in a semi-hydro setup, I've used the General Hydroponics Flora series. And then over the past few months, so I was using that. These aren't at the same time. This is what I was using before, did great. And now I'm using the Nurture System fertilizer, and it is still obviously doing really well with that. So I don't think it's super fussy with fertilizer. Just make sure if you're growing in semi-hydro to have a fertilizer that is semi-hydroponic friendly. And if you're not, then you don't really have to worry so much. I don't really talk a lot about fertilizer because I don't know a lot about fertilizer. All I can do is tell you what I use, what I have used, and you can do with that information what you will. As for the pole, it is climbing a Russo Plant Care moss pole. This is my favorite type of pole because it opens up at the front, so I can just open the tabs and make sure that the vine is getting in contact with the moss. And they're also very easy to chop and extend as well, which I will probably, I don't know, maybe I will do one more extension because it will just be interesting to see this plant continue to mature. So I may do that. We shall see, I guess. Stay tuned. Something else that could possibly lead to leaf browning is extra floral nectaries. I'm noticing that mine does have some, mostly on the stem, but a little bit on the leaves as well. And that's just like a sticky sap that philodendrons put out, and it's usually on the petiole or on the back of the leaves, and it can like burn into the leaf and cause a brown spot. So this one could probably use a shower soon just to kind of get rid of that buildup. Like I said, I have not had an issue with pests. I'm currently using Beneficial's lacewing larvae for prevention. I don't think humidity is a huge deal for this plant, but my humidity is typically around the 50% mark, and just regular room temperature. I think my house, I mean, during the spring and summer, it's definitely on the warm side because I don't always turn the cooling on. This plant propagates super easily and quickly just in water. I would try to propagate from a greener leaf. I don't know if I've ever tried propagating a white one. I don't know if it would just die or if it would slowly turn green. So if you've done it, let me know. But I've propagated this plant a lot over the years and I have had no problems. To be honest with you, it's one of my more low maintenance plants because it is in the self-watering pot in leca and it just doesn't cause me any troubles. Like, it's very, very easy going. I also just wanted to address what this top bit is in case people haven't seen this before. This is a moss pole topper or dripper, so you can water your moss pole just by putting water into here. And there's also a gauge that shows you how full it is, so you're not gonna overfill it. And it slowly wicks the water down into your moss pole, and it just makes moss pole maintenance so easy breezy. I love these so much. So yeah, I have one of those on top, which makes it super easy to maintain the moss pole and keep it moist. So if you've been wanting to grab one, I highly recommend. I've seen them popping up now. I don't know if it's Costa Farms or somebody is like mass producing these because I saw them at the big box store the other day. So I think it's really cool that more people are going to be able to get their hands on this plant because it is just so phenomenal. I think it's a really special one. And I just highly, highly recommend giving it a try if you've been curious about growing this one. If you have any other questions, leave them down below. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!